Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Dark Dialogue Shout Chat Sessions. I am your host, John.
And I'm Angela, and I was super waiting for that.
I got to come up with something new. I don't know what it's going to be, but I got to come up with something because that's getting old, so I got to work on that. So anyway, this is a show where we just talk about a bunch of dumb shit, weird shit, strange shit, dipshits, all the shits, and none of it really matters, and some about points, and I don't even know the rules, and we just come in here and we do this nonsense, and that's kind of how we go from there.
Amen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Something like that.
Just gonna go with it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So how's it going tonight?
It's going all right. How are you?
I'm good. It's the end of the week, which
It is the end of the first full week of the year.
Of the year. Is that true?
It is true.
Wow.
No, I lied to you. Just bold-faced.
Yeah, it seems like it's been longer than that.
It's the first full week.
Huh. Yeah, well, it's crazy. It's crazy that we're in 2026.
It is.
30 years since I graduated high school.
Oh.
Yeah. Freaking nuts.
Means I'm honing in on 30.
Yeah. It's pretty freaking crazy. So it goes so damn fast. So that's why we have this show, so we can enjoy some of it anyway and laugh and have a good time and, not get too serious about nothing, right?
True.
So with that said, are you ready to jump into this show?
I feel like it's been forever since we've done one.
It has. It's been quite a while since we've done a Shadow Chat. We've kind of gotten, all of the health shit that I've been dealing with, not only with my family, but with myself. Mm-hmm. It just has been absolute chaos since August. So hopefully we're kind of coming to a place where now shit can kind of normalize a little bit. And we started the new year. I've got all kinds of stuff in the works. There's going to be multiple different changes and, just
promised me some magic too.
Yeah,
so
little tweaks to the shows and the way that we record and hopefully the quality and the product that we're putting out to the listeners, hopefully all of that. And I got to work on that magic thing. But when I was a kid, I had these little foam balls and I practiced with them all the time and I got pretty good. So I think I can do some magic.
I need some magic.
So just a reminder to the listeners, if you like what we do and how we do it, just give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a review, hit the thumbs up, the little bell thing on YouTube, all that shit, because...
Comment any of the shit.
Yeah, tell us we're idiots. That's okay. That's okay. I can take it. But that stuff really, really helps us a lot. So if you like what we do, help us continue to do it. We really would appreciate it.
Yes, please.
And with that, let's dive into this mess. You ready for our strange headline segment?
Always.
All right, well, this one is freaking weird as shit.
Okay.
Trapped deer removed from Wisconsin basement after 2 days.
Okay.
A Wisconsin homeowner returned from out of town to discover an unexpected house guest. A full-grown deer that had smashed through a basement window, lived downstairs for 2 days, and turned the space into what authorities delicately described as a mess. Mm-hmm. After a neighbor called 911, professionals were brought in to escort the exhausted but otherwise unharmed deer back into the wild, leaving behind broken glass, panic pellets, and one hell of an insurance claim. So according to a January 6th UPI report, the incident unfolded in Grand Chute, Wisconsin, where a resident noticed something deeply abnormal next door, namely a deer crashing through a basement window and refusing to leave. The homeowners were out of town at the time, which meant that the deer had free reign of the basement for roughly 48 hours. No supervision, no rules, and no shame. Police responded to a 911 call and quickly realized this was not a shoo it out with a broom situation. They contacted Nuisance Pro, a local wildlife removal company, to handle the extraction. Owner and operator Nathan Celo arrived to find a deer that was no longer in fight or flight mode. It was in, I've been trapped in a human cave for 2 days and I am over it mode. Initially, the plan involved nets, blankets, but that proved unnecessary. The deer was reportedly so tired that Celo and his team were able to physically grab the animal and walk it out by hand.
Oh.
After 2 days in captivity, presumably fueled by panic, adrenaline, maybe a furnace filter, the deer was released back into the wild. Miraculously, it did not appear seriously injured. The basement, however, did not fare so well. It's a mess. Glass and poop everywhere,
Oh, no.
CeeLo said,
Oh, no.
delivering perhaps the most concise wildlife incident report in modern history. As if this weren't strange enough, authorities noted that this wasn't even an isolated incident.
Oh, man.
Just weeks earlier, police in Walker, Michigan, dealt with a similar basement deer standoff. In that case, the animal reportedly resisted eviction for 2 full days and seemed to enjoy its indoor accommodations. Walker police later joked on social media that the deer, quote, refused to come up from the basement, forcing officers to use a catch pole and a broom to guide it upstairs and out, essentially recreating the world's most rural version of a hostage negotiation. So, my take? Look, I get it. Wisconsin winter hits, and suddenly a warm basement with no mortgage, no predators, and unlimited places to poop probably feels like a 5-star resort. But at some point, you've got to respect the social contract. You don't break into someone's house, redecorate the basement with feces, and then act surprised when humans call in professionals. Also, can we talk about the deer just being grabbed by hand? That detail alone tells me this animal had fully disassociated.
Yeah.
That wasn't exhaustion. That was depression. 2 days trapped in a concrete box listening to the furnace kick on and off will do that to anyone.
Imagine.
And the Michigan deer, that one absolutely knew what it was doing. That was not fear. That was squatter energy. That deer wasn't stuck. It was nesting.
That deer better have left a good Yelp review.
I agree. So, at what point does a trapped deer stop being wildlife and start being an emotional support animal?
Oh, it's been a while since we've discussed emotional support animals.
Right?
I want to know what they're trying to tell us by breaking in. Because don't animals usually do things when they try to tell us stuff?
Yeah, I find it insane that I don't know about the Michigan one, but the Wisconsin one broke the window to get in. Like,
How is he not hurt?
right? And how the hell did he break the window and crawl through it?
Headbutt.
Like, it's a basement window. It's not like it's at head level. It's a basement. And then, like, when I was a kid, I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know who, I don't know. But I do know
Do you know?
that
Really?
birds used to continually fall down our freaking chimney.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they manage that shit, because if you watch birds, they're not like falling off of trees and power lines and shit all the time. Matter of fact, I've never seen a bird fall off anything that I can think of.
I was drunk.
A lot. We ended up having to put like screen around our freaking chimney because
Sick.
the birds kept getting in there, and then you'd hear them flopping around in the fireplace. And then you'd open the door and the little bastards would go flying all through the freaking house and stuff. But
Bombing you because it's your fault.
but I never understood that one. And the deer breaking the window, crawling in, that's even more so.
Maybe it was one smooth like slip, it broke and went in, or did they say they actually saw it intentionally crawling in?
No, I just saw a picture of the broken window, and then the deer in there. I don't know how it actually got in.
So it
but
makes me wonder if it was a slip or something and it broke and went straight through it.
like fell into it, or I don't know. But if a deer lives in your basement for 2 days, does it legally owe rent or at least cleaning fees?
Cleaning.
I think so too.
I don't think. How long do you have to squat to? I think it's 30 days or something.
Depends on the state.
Okay, well,
Like some states, all you had to do is like get a piece of mail there or some shit like that. I don't know. There's those laws are convoluted to make no sense to me.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, if it's your property, you ought to be able to kick somebody out of it, no matter where they get their mail.
Yeah.
That's me. So which is worse to discover after vacation? A flooded basement, a burglary, or a deer that's redecorated with poop and shattered glass?
oh, that's hard to decide. I'm gonna say burglary.
Yeah, I think burglary would definitely top that list.
I would feel a little more violated with burglary.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. All right, so you ready for the conspiracy corner?
Oh, yeah.
What if a solar flare actually sank the Titanic? A scientific paper published in R-Met-S Weather suggests that the Titanic may not have been doomed solely by ice and hubris, but by the sun itself. According to the theory, a moderate to severe geomagnetic storm caused by solar flare activity on April 14, 1912, may have interfered with compasses, navigation, and radio transmissions, subtly altering the Titanic's course and complicating rescue efforts after it struck the iceberg. Just when humanity collectively agreed that we had wrung every last theory out of the Titanic, iceberg speed, binoculars, classism, hubris, Jack's floating door options, along comes space. Researcher Mila Zinkova, who has already published multiple papers examining optical mirages and atmospheric distortion, on the night of the sinking, turned her attention upward. Her 2020 paper explores whether a geomagnetic storm triggered by solar flare activity may have influenced the disaster. Solar flares are massive eruptions on the sun's surface, releasing energy equivalent to billions of megatons of TNT, or dynamite. When particularly strong, they distort Earth's magnetic field, producing auras and interfering with magnetic instruments. In modern times, these storms have knocked out power grids, disrupted satellites, scrambled GPS, and interfered with radio communications. In 1912, they would have gone completely unnoticed except by the damage they caused. Evidence suggests that the Northern Hemisphere was experiencing a moderate to severe magnetic storm on the night that the Titanic sank, confirmed by reports of aurora borealis sightings unusually far south. Zinkova argues that this storm could have skewed magnetic north just enough to throw compass readings aboard ships in the North Atlantic. Here's where it gets interesting. Titanic's fourth officer, Joseph Boxhall, calculated the ship's distress coordinates during the evacuation. According to Zinkova, his reported position may have been off by approximately 13 nautical miles. That error, she suggests, may be attributed to geomagnetic interference affecting the ship's compass at the worst possible moment. But it doesn't stop there.
Of course not.
The rescue ship, Carpathia, may have been affected by the same geomagnetic disturbances for more than 5 hours, before, during, and after receiving Titanic's SOS signals. If both ships were operating under distorted magnetic conditions, the error could have compounded, influencing not only how distress calls were interpreted, but how quickly and accurately rescuers reached the lifeboats. Adding another layer, Zinkova notes that radio interference from geomagnetic storms can be highly localized. That means some ships may have received garbled messages, delayed transmissions, or none at all, while others outside the storm's radius experienced no issues. This could help explain why certain nearby vessels failed to respond in time while others appeared unaffected. Importantly, the theory does not claim the solar flare alone sank the Titanic. Instead, it suggests that space weather may have quietly nudged several critical variables: navigation, reported position, radio clarity, just enough to worsen an already catastrophic situation. My take? I love this theory because it doesn't try to replace the iceberg. It just makes the universe an accessory. Think about it. Human arrogance builds the unsinkable ship. Nature throws an iceberg in its path, and then the sun itself quietly reaches down from 93 million miles away and says, also, your compass is lying. There's something deeply humbling about the idea that the Titanic might have been slightly off course because space was having a bad night. No villain monologue, no warning, just invisible magnetic chaos quietly bending needles and scrambling signals while 2,200 people trusted technology that had no idea what was happening to it. That said, this theory doesn't magically absolve anyone. The ship was still speeding through ice fields, lifeboats were still half full, Decisions were still made by humans, not by heliophysics, but I do enjoy imagining the iceberg saying, I didn't do this alone.
I did not act alone.
So if a solar flare helped doom the Titanic, does that make the sun history's most passive-aggressive co-conspirator?
Yes.
I agree. I mean, I'm fascinated by this theory. Of course, I have this thing about solar storms and the belief that they're going to lead to the apocalypse. And because I think it was in 1889 or 1898, one of those, something like that. There was this massive
1800s.
Yeah, it's called the shit. Most days I could tell you. Something event. And so we had this massive solar storm. And at the time, all we had was telegraphs. We didn't have radios. We didn't have electricity. We didn't have any of that. The Carrington event. And we just had telegraphs, but the solar storm was so massive that it freaking fried out the telegraphs all across the United States. And if something like the Carrington event happened now, we're screwed. Oh. Like no car is going to drive. No freaking power's not going to work. Like we're overnight back in the freaking Stone Age. So, and it's a real thing. Like shit. We just had the Aurora Borealis, Northern Lights, whatever you want to call them, visible here for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And that is an indicate that's solar storms come from that. That's the radioactive waves or whatever the hell hitting the earth, and that's what shows up as the Northern Lights. And so when it's a massive solar storm, you see them farther and farther south. So that's what they're talking about. And it's a real thing. It happens all the time. A lot of the time, these solar storms hit like out in the middle of the ocean and shit. So no harm, no foul. But sooner or later, it's going to hit and it's going to be massive.
Well, at least I know that I have been voted someone who should be protected at all costs because I create blankets.
There you go. See, 100%.
I am the warmth. So
how many famous disasters might have been quietly nudged by space weather we didn't even know existed?
All of them.
I mean, it really does make you wonder how, like a lot of the Bermuda Triangle shit and a lot of these strange disappearances and stuff could have been affected by something like a solar storm. The solar storm thing is not a conspiracy theory. That's 100% scientific fact. It happens and it affects people here on Earth. And I've heard people claim like it affects moods and shit like that of people when it's really bad and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, it did make us weird here for a while. All sorts of weird things.
It's a weird energy, I mean, there's a shit ton of energy that's coming into the earth. It's going to affect people. It's going to affect animals. It's going to affect any living creatures, So I don't know.
It makes deer go into basements.
Makes deer go into basements, right? So at what point do we stop blaming bad decisions and just admit the universe sometimes stacks the deck?
The universe sometimes says, hold my beer.
I would agree. However, the Titanic is nothing but bad decisions.
I do have to bring something up because you brought it up with the Titanic. I learned something the other day that thought I knew a lot of phobias, but I did not know about this one. You ever heard of submechanophobia?
No.
It is the fear of man-made objects underwater.
I have that fear.
You have that fear?
100%.
Oh, does it bug you to see pictures of the Titanic underwater?
No. I have a fear of getting on a submarine, though.
No. So it's the fear of witnessing a man-made object underwater, and it most attributes to mechanical things like animatronics that come up out of the water when you can see the tracks that they're on.
That's so weird.
Or things that are flooded when you can see a flooded amusement park, the roller coaster tracks being flooded, stairways being flooded. Submechanophobia, the fear of man-made things underwater.
No,
megalophobia, also I learned at the same time, is the fear of unordinarily large objects. So they kind of generally coincide. If you have one, you'll have the other.
No, I don't have it. I don't really have any phobias, I don't think, but technically. But there ain't no freaking way you get me on a submarine. I can tell you that shit right now.
I'm not doing that either.
My brother was on a submarine, and so then we toured it. You know, we went down in this freaking thing. It was above water. It was like docked, whatever. And I was still like, get me the hell out. There is no freaking way you would get me under the water in that thing. No way.
Too much.
The only way I survived the Disneyland one is because I knew the top half was still above water. So if I needed to get out, I could. But if Disneyland would have went under the water, I'd have been out. And like the one that imploded going down to see the Titanic, you remember that? Where the dumbasses,
yeah.
And they were like controlling it with an Xbox controller and shit like that. Like I watched an interview with the engineer and he was like, I freaking told him.
Yeah.
There was stress fractures all over that thing. I told them it was going to happen.
They couldn't wait.
It was more hubris and arrogance is exactly what it was. Same thing that took down the Titanic.
Yeah.
But another conspiracy we're going to have to cover is, was it really the Titanic? Because I don't think it was. I think it was the Olympic.
All right. Well, let's cover it then.
We will. Okay, so you ready for the Reddit rabbit hole?
Oh, yeah. What's Reddit doing now?
My apartment building's maintenance logs list units that don't exist. A Reddit user claims they discovered maintenance and utility records for apartment units that do not appear on any floor plan, leasing document, or directory in their building. What starts as a mundane request for maintenance records quickly spirals into a paper trail mystery involving phantom apartments, reoccurring service calls, and at least one unit marked as occupied for years, despite no tenant ever being seen. The story originated on RRBI, where a Redditor explained they had requested maintenance logs from their apartment management after experiencing repeated plumbing issues. The building itself was a mid-century multi-story complex, nothing particularly remarkable. Standard units, standard hallways, standard complaints. But when the property manager handed over the logs, something felt off. Interspersed among the expected unit numbers were repeated references to apartments that did not exist on any official floor plan the tenant had access to. No renumbered units, no basements, no storage spaces, entire apartments listed with full unit numbers, work orders, and dates, yet absent from the building's layout. At first, commenters suggested the obvious: clerical errors, legacy numbering from renovations, or mislabeled storage areas. Reasonable explanations, boring explanations. Except the records kept going. Some of the non-existent units appeared repeatedly across multiple years, often for routine issues. HVAC inspections, plumbing access, electrical checks, nothing exotic, nothing alarming, just consistent. And stranger still, one of the phantom units was listed as occupied in internal maintenance notes for nearly 5 consecutive years. The original poster began checking public records. City zoning documents showed no additional units. Fire inspection records listed only the known apartments. No permits existed for hidden expansions. The building had never been legally subdivided beyond its current configuration. Redditors urged caution, but curiosity won. The tenant requested utility usage data under local tenant access laws. While most phantom units showed no obvious utility footprint, one did. Water usage, minimal electricity, small but regular, enough to suggest something or someone was there. Neighbors were asked discreetly. No one recalled anyone living in those units. No one remembered seeing movers. One longtime resident mentioned a door at the end of the hallway that, quote, used to be there, end quote, before a renovation decades earlier, but could not recall where it led. Then things got quiet. Management abruptly stopped responding. The tenant reported receiving a vague email stating the records were, quote, archived inconsistently, and that further inquiries would need to go through corporate legal counsel. Maintenance logs were no longer accessible. The original Reddit account went dark shortly afterward. No dramatic reveal followed. No confirmation of secret tenants. No locked door photos. Just an unresolved bureaucratic anomaly that left behind a deeply uncomfortable question. How many spaces exist around us simply because paperwork says they do? My take? This is why ghosts don't scare me, but paperwork does. Because here's the thing, buildings lie all the time, not maliciously, not dramatically. They lie the way systems lie, quietly, bureaucratically, and with plausible deniability. And once something exists in a database, it tends to stay there long after reality changes. Is this a secret apartment? Probably not. Is it a clerical artifact from an old renovation that never got cleaned up? Very possible. But the truly unsettling part isn't the idea of someone secretly living in a wall. It's the realization that no one in charge could definitively say what those units were and why they were there. If a record says something exists, enough systems will act like it does. Maintenance, utilities, fire access plans, insurance. And if no one ever checks, it might as well be real. That's not a haunted building. That's haunted administration. So what's creepier, a hidden apartment or a system that can't explain its own records?
A system that can't explain its own records.
100%. The U.S. government. So how many phantom spaces do you think exist purely because no one ever audited the paperwork?
So many.
Oh, I think so. And I don't know like the size of this or anything, but some of these freaking apartment complexes in places, especially in cities, are so freaking massive. I mean, they cover blocks and blocks and blocks.
And then what's under them that nobody knows?
Who the hell knows?
Exactly.
It's like the Illuminati had built their headquarters under the Denver International Airport.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if a unit is listed as occupied, but no one has ever seen the tenant, at what point does that become a problem?
All the points.
All the points.
All of them. I have nothing else. All of them. Also, Lucifer is a megalophobia thing.
Well, I can understand that. That thing's freaking creepy as shit. All right, you ready for the dipshit's diary?
I am always ready for the dipshit's diary.
Dipshit Diaries.
The lemon juice invisibility bank robber.
Is that going back to National Treasure type things?
Kind of.
Okay, bring it.
Only dumber.
Bring it.
In 1995, two men robbed multiple Pittsburgh area banks at gunpoint without masks, hats, or disguises because they believed rubbing lemon juice on their faces made them invisible to security cameras.
Oh my.
The resulting arrest not only landed them in prison, but also directly inspired the psychological concept now known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, the tendency of incompetent people to widely overestimate their own abilities. On January 6, 1995, MacArthur Wheeler and Clifton Earl Johnson executed what they clearly believed was a flawless plan. They robbed two banks in the greater Pittsburgh area in broad daylight, guns out, faces uncovered, confidence high. Their secret weapon was not stealth speed or planning, it was lemon juice. Wheeler and Johnson believed that lemon juice, like invisible ink, would render their faces invisible to surveillance cameras. According to Wheeler, Johnson had explained that since lemon juice could disappear on paper until heated, the same principle would apply to video recording. Wheeler was skeptical briefly, but decided to test the theory himself. He covered his face in lemon juice and took a Polaroid photograph. When the photo developed and his face didn't appear clearly, Wheeler concluded the experiment was a success. Detectives later theorized the photo failure was due to poor lighting, bad film, or Wheeler simply pointing the camera incorrectly. Wheeler, however, interpreted it as science. Armed with citrus confidence, the pair robbed the Swissvale branch of Mellon Bank at 2:47 p.m., making off with approximately $5,200. Later that day, they hit a second bank in Brighton Heights. They did not flee town. They did not change their appearance. They did not rethink anything. Johnson was arrested within days. Wheeler remained at large until April, when his very visible face was broadcast on a Pittsburgh Crime Stoppers segment. Anonymous tips flooded in, and police arrested him less than an hour after the broadcast aired. When showing the surveillance photos, Wheeler reportedly exclaimed in disbelief, "But I wore lemon juice! I wore lemon juice!"
Oh, man.
He genuinely did not understand what had gone wrong. Johnson pleaded guilty and received a 5-year sentence. Wheeler was sentenced to over 24 years in prison. Charges for one robbery were later dropped, but by then the damage, the logic, reason, and citrus fruit was already done. The case might have faded into local crime absurdity if not for one thing. It caught the attention of Cornell psychology professor David Dunning. Dunning realized Wheeler's failure wasn't just criminal incompetence, it was cognitive incompetence. Wheeler was not only bad at crime, he was incapable of recognizing how bad he was.
Ugh.
That insight led to the landmark 1999 paper, Unskilled and Unaware of It, co-authored with graduate student Justin Kruger. The phenomenon known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, now one of the most cited concepts in psychology. In other words, lemon juice didn't just fail to make Wheeler invisible, it made him immortal in academic literature. My take? This is my favorite dumb criminal story of all time because it's not impulsive stupid, it's research stupid. This man conducted a test. He gathered data.
Yeah.
He reviewed the results. And he still arrived at the worst possible conclusion. That's not ignorance. That's confidence weaponized against reality. Also, imagine being so wrong, the psychologists look at your crime and say, well, that deserves a peer-reviewed journal.
Yeah,
Most criminals end up in prison. This guy ended up in textbooks. And let's be clear, lemon juice didn't make him invisible. It just made him sticky, shiny, and easier to identify. Somewhere out there, a lemon tree is still ashamed.
I would bet.
So is this the purest real-world example of the Dunning-Kruger effect ever recorded?
It has to be. But
Yeah.
I wore lemon juice.
So it's interesting. I had to read into this Dunning-Kruger thing a little bit. So it's interesting that, they basically found that really stupid people overestimate their abilities.
Okay.
And really competent people underestimate their abilities.
Okay.
So it's the really brilliant people of the world are kind of humble about it. And they're like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. I fell off the toilet. I hit my head. I drew this thing called the flux capacitor, but I don't know if I could really make it work or not. And then you get some dumbass that's like, almost smear lemon juice on my face to take a picture. And now I'm invisible. I'm the invisible man.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh my.
it's going to be hard to beat this one for the title of the dumbest ever. Because
Yeah.
think about the logic that went into that.
Lemon juice.
You have a lemon, right?
So is lemonade just camouflage then because it's not 100% juice?
Well, this is my point. You have a lemon, right?
Okay.
And you can see it. So, ipso facto, your theory is bullshit. How do you not reconcile that? You buy a bottle of lemon juice and you dump it into a glass. You can see the lemon juice. It's yellow colored.
And you keep it cold, so the heat theory doesn't work there either.
Yeah. I mean, wow. This is the dumbest I think I've heard of.
Yeah.
So, what modern equivalent of lemon juice invisibility do we see people confidently believing today?
That's a good question.
Flat Earth. 100% flat Earth.
Huh.
That one, you've got to be an idiot to believe it. Sorry, listeners.
Flat Earth.
If you are a flat earther, you're an idiot. Sorry, no way to say it. Take a trip around the world. That's all I get to say.
If you're a flat earther, lemon juice will make you invisible.
Lemon juice will make you invisible. Absolutely. So if your criminal plan requires citric acid science, should that be a red flag?
Yellow flag.
Yellow flag.
Citrus flag, yes.
I agree. Okay, so Dipshit Diaries number 2. The bag on the head burglar who unmasked himself.
Oh no. Was he wearing lemon juice?
A would-be burglar in Wales attempted to rob a hotel during a crowded Elvis convention by wearing a plastic carrier bag over his head as a disguise. Despite initially avoiding identification on CCTV, he inexplicably removed the bag, stared directly into the security camera from close range, and was promptly identified, arrested, and sent to prison. On September 27, 2015, Christopher Badman, A 37-year-old from Bridgend decided the perfect time to commit a burglary was during Porthcrawl's annual Elvis Festival, an event that draws crowds of Elvis impersonators and tourists from around the world. With the town packed and the Marine Hotel bustling, Badman entered the building armed with a truly inspired disguise, a plastic carrier bag pulled over his head. CCTV footage shows Badman wandering through the hotel corridors, making deliberate efforts to avoid being identified. He kept his head down, adjusted the bag, and moved cautiously, clearly aware of the presence of security cameras and apparently confident that his bag technology rendered him anonymous. He then broke into a guest's bedroom. That's where things unraveled. After being disturbed by a guest, Badman exited back into the hallway, and for reasons known only to him and possibly explained by panic, overconfidence, or sheer impulse, he stopped, removed the bag from his head, leaned toward the security camera from just a few feet away, and looked directly into the lens. Not glanced, not accidentally turned, stared. The CCTV captured his face in crystal clear detail. Police had no trouble identifying him. He was arrested, charged, and later admitted to burglary at Cardiff Crown Court. Badman was sentenced to 16 months in prison and ordered to pay £900 in costs plus a £100 surcharge. I think that little funny symbol is pounds.
Yeah.
Detective Inspector Andy Pattison summed it up succinctly. Despite taking steps to avoid identification, Badman, quote, decided to look straight into the camera, and of course, his cover was blown, end quote. My take? This is what happens when you start a crime with a bad idea and then somehow make it worse. Look, I'm not saying the bag on the head disguise was a good plan. It wasn't. It's a choking hazard masquerading as criminal strategy. But the truly impressive part is that after committing to it, this man voluntarily aborted his own disguise and personally introduced himself to the CCTV system. That's not a mistake. That's a conscious decision. It's like wearing a ski mask, robbing a bank, and then saying, hold on, let me make sure the camera gets my good side.
Yeah.
And doing this during an Elvis festival, that means there were probably dozens of people nearby dressed like Elvis Presley, arguably the perfect crowd to blend into. Instead, he chose to be guy in bag on his head who removes it. Some criminals are caught by good police work. Others just assist. So if you're already wearing a terrible disguise, why would you ever remove it in front of a camera?
Solar flares.
Solar flares.
I'm blaming it on solar flares.
Is that everything tonight? That's all going to be solar flares?
Yes. Mm-hmm. When I get home and something goes wrong,
solar flares. Yeah. So is a plastic bag over your head more or less suspicious than just walking in confidently?
More. This bag is not a toy for a reason.
Yes. I mean, that's an actual picture.
Yeah, I see it.
It's not a clear plastic bag. He would have had to have looked out the bottom of it in order to even figure out where in the hell he was going.
Wonderful.
It was a brilliant disguise.
Yeah, I should have just cut eye holes in it. Wear a sheet.
So which is worse, believing lemon juice makes you invisible or knowing you're on camera and unmasking anyway?
Oh, that's tough. By just a little bit, lemon juice making you invisible.
Yeah, the lemon juice takes it for me by a long ways just because that is so insanely stupid to believe. I just can't get over it.
Or lemon juice.
Okay. Dipshit Diaries number 3. The Great Penguin Heist. The Theft of Dirk.
Oh, Dirk.
2 Welsh tourists on a working holiday in Australia broke into SeaWorld after a night of heavy drinking, swam with dolphins, discharged a fire extinguisher into a shark enclosure, and stole a penguin named Dirk. They later woke up hungover with the penguin in their apartment, attempted improvised penguin care, released him into a canal, and were promptly reported to police. Dirk was rescued unharmed and reunited with his partner Peaches.
Oh.
On April 14, 2012, Rise Owen Jones, 21, and Carrie Mules, 20, friends from South Wales, decided to cap off a night out in Queensland's Gold Coast with what can only be described as a greatest hits tour of bad decisions. After attending a beach party and consuming what a magistrate later diplomatically described as, quote, too much vodka, the pair, along with an 18-year-old Australian, broke into SeaWorld. Once inside, they did not immediately leave. Instead, they explored. They swam with dolphins. They discharged a fire extinguisher into a shark enclosure. And then, somehow, concluding that the night needed a souvenir, they stole a 7-year-old fairy penguin named Dirk from an aquarium. Dirk was not a wild penguin. He was bred in captivity and part of a managed breeding colony. He also had a partner, Peaches, who did not consent to any of this. The next morning, Jones and Mules woke up in their apartment with severe hangovers and a penguin. Faced with this unexpected reality, they attempted what might generously be called penguin care. They fed Dirk. They placed him in the shower, presumably believing that running water and regret could replicate an Antarctic environment.
Yes.
At some point, they realized keeping a penguin in an apartment was unsustainable, so they released him into a nearby canal. Locals quickly noticed that a fairy penguin did not belong there and contacted police. Dirk was rescued, returned to SeaWorld unharmed, and reunited with Peaches, an outcome far better than the situation deserved. Jones and Mules pleaded guilty to trespassing and stealing and keeping a protected animal. During sentencing, the court emphasized that their actions could easily have resulted in serious injury or death, either to themselves or to the animals. Magistrate Brian Cucks acknowledged the pair acted without malice, but described their behavior as immature and stupid. He declined to record convictions, but fined each man 1,000 Australian dollars and reminded them that entering the wrong enclosure could have landed them, quote, in the morgue.
Yep.
He also suggested politely but firmly that they consider drinking less vodka in the future. My take? This is not a crime. It's a drunk nature documentary filmed entirely off camera. Breaking into a theme park is already a bad idea, but escalating from dolphins to sharks to kidnapping a penguin is a level of confidence that can only be fueled by alcohol and unchecked optimism. And I want to focus on the moment they woke up. Imagine opening your eyes, your head pounding, your mouth dry, and there's a penguin in your apartment. Not a cat, not a dog, a penguin.
Not a tattoo you don't remember.
At what point? At that point, your life has clearly gone off script. Putting him in the shower might be my favorite detail. That's not animal care. That's panic improvisation. That's a man thinking, I don't know what penguins need, but water feels right.
Water feels right.
Dirk, meanwhile, survived a kidnapping, a hangover apartment, a canal release, and still made it back to Peaches. That penguin is tougher than everyone else involved. So, at what point in this night should someone have said, we should probably stop?
The second shot of vodka.
I mean, I've been drunk. I have partied a lot. I have never, ever, no matter how drunk I've ever gotten, I've never been so out of control that I woke up with a penguin in my apartment.
Have you had access to a penguin while you were this drunk?
I've never been so drunk that I'd broken into a place. Like, what do you say to that?
I don't know. I've never been that drunk. Ever.
Me either. And I've been about as drunk as you can get. I never broke into nowhere and stole penguins or swam with dolphins or fired freaking fire extinguishers at sharks.
Oh, man.
So is waking up with a penguin better or worse than waking up in jail?
Better. I'd rather wake up with a penguin than wake up in jail.
I don't know, because you wake up with a penguin, you're going to jail. And then you got to deal with the penguin. So how many terrible decisions can be directly traced back to vodka and misplaced confidence?
Way too funny. We do not have that kind of time.
Vodka is definitely to blame for a lot of bad, probably not as many as tequila, but vodka is definitely up there. All right, you ready for our weird shit section?
Yeah.
Weird shit.
Operation Cat Drop. When the British Air Force parachuted cats into the jungle.
Excuse me, what?
In 1960, the Royal Air Force carried out a real, documented operation in which cats were flown from Singapore and parachuted into remote regions of Sarawak, modern-day Malaysia, to combat a rat infestation. The infestation itself was an unintended consequence of earlier malaria control efforts using DDT. The operation became a lasting example of ecological domino effects and one of the strangest, yet most real, government interventions in environmental history. Operation Cat Drop sounds like something dreamed up in a writer's room after too much caffeine and not enough supervision. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it actually happened. In the 1950s, large-scale malaria control campaigns were underway across Southeast Asia. One of the primary tools was DDT, an insecticide widely believed at the time to be safe and effective. In places like Sarawak, entire communities were sprayed to kill malaria-carrying mosquitoes before they could infect humans. The mosquito problem declined. Everything else did not. Cats, either through direct exposure to DDT on treated surfaces or possibly through eating contaminated insects and animals, began dying in large numbers. With the local cat population suddenly reduced, rats faced dramatically less predation. The result was a population explosion. The rats began destroying crops, threatening food supplies and local livelihoods. In an attempt to correct the problem, British authorities approved a solution that can only be described as aggressively literal. They would add more cats. In 1960, the Royal Air Force flew domestic cats from Singapore to Sarawak. The cats were placed in crates fitted with parachutes and dropped into remote villages that were otherwise difficult to access. Contemporary reports suggest around 23 cats were used, though later retellings wildly exaggerated the number into the thousands. Those larger figures are considered apocryphal. At the time, the operation was reported as a success. The cats survived the drops, the rat population was reduced, crops stabilized. On paper, it worked. But the story didn't end there. Operation Cat Drop became a case study in environmental science, often cited as a cautionary tale about unintended consequences. The original intervention, DDT spraying, solved one problem while destabilizing multiple food chains. That destabilization required a second intervention, which itself carried risks and unknowns. In later years, researchers pointed to similar cases in Thailand, Bolivia, and Mexico, where DDT exposure was linked to cat deaths and subsequent rodent outbreaks. In some cases, cats were believed to have been poisoned simply by licking their fur after brushing against treated walls. Today, Operation Cat Drop is taught as an example of why ecosystems must be approached as interconnected systems rather than isolated problems. One action alters multiple variables, often in ways humans fail to anticipate. It also remains one of the only times in recorded history that someone looked at an ecological crisis and said, "We need parachuting cats." My take? This is the most British solution imaginable. Not only did they identify the problem, they calmly escalated it into an airborne feline deployment. No drama, no irony, just right then the cats will be dropped at 0900.
Right at dawn.
And to be fair, this was not incompetence, this was confidence. It was the same era that brought us DDT everywhere, asbestos in buildings, and the idea that ecosystems were basically spreadsheets. What I love about this story is that it perfectly illustrates how humans don't really fix nature. We negotiate with it, and sometimes that negotiation involves accidentally killing all the cats, creating a rat apocalypse, and then parachuting replacement cats into the jungle like fuzzy little reinforcements. Also, imagine being a villager and just seeing cats fall from the sky. No explanation, no warning, just cats. Frankly, I respect it.
I can't decide if I want to see it or if I don't want to see it worse.
So, is Operation Cat Drop brilliant problem solving or ecological panic mode?
I want to know how it's not a Disney cartoon.
Right?
How? I don't have an answer for you on that because I'm still trying to decide if I want to see it or not.
I mean, I have such a problem with government getting involved in the ecosystem in any way, shape, or form, whatever. It's like, I mean, it's going on right now in Colorado. We've seen it in Wyoming with the reintroduction of wolves into an ecosystem that hasn't seen an apex predator like that in 200 years or whatever, 150 years. And I mean, and we saw it in 1988. I don't know if you were old enough to remember. I remember very clearly when they had the whole Let It Burn program, where we practiced like over 100 years of absolute fire suppression. If a fire starts, we put it out. If a fire starts, we put it out. We don't let anything burn ever. We did that for over 100 years. And then in 1988, that idiot with the name that starts with a B, I cannot remember it off the top of my head. Anyway, they decided, we're going to let it burn.
We're going to let it burn.
Yellowstone had overgrown for freaking millennia, and then we let it burn. And boy, did it ever burn.
It burned.
So yeah, I just want them to leave it the hell alone. So what modern environmental fixes do you think that we'll look back on and say, why did we think that was a good idea? 100% GMO. 100% GMO. This idea that we can genetically modify plants to not be affected by a herbicide so that we can spray herbicide on plants that we're going to eat. I mean, I don't need to wait to say that's a bad freaking idea.
True.
I could say that's a bad idea right now, and whoever thought that shit up is an absolute moron. He probably wears lemon juice on his face to disappear.
He really does.
But he sold it to everybody.
I was looking up the guy's name that you were trying to remember, and it won't tell me. So anyway.
Yeah, I want to say Bobbitt, though. It wasn't Bobbitt. That's the guy that got his...
Yep.
But it started with a B. Damn it. Because it was a dirty word in Cody at the time.
Yeah.
Everybody hated that man because
let it burn.
He exercised the let it burn policy and it freaking destroyed us. I mean, wow, that was a bad year. So if cats fell from the sky today, how long would it take before someone tried to monetize it?
2.5 seconds?
Yeah, it's about 27 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you ready for weird shit number 2?
Yes.
The Sandown Clown. All colors, Sam.
Okay.
In May of 1973, 2 children playing near Lake Common on the Isle of Wight reported an encounter with a 7-foot-tall, clown-like humanoid calling itself Sam. The figure wore bizarre clothing, carried a microphone that emitted a siren-like wail, lived in a metallic hut, and behaved in ways that defied logic or biology. The incident was later documented in a 1978 Bufora report and has since become one of Britain's strangest and most endearing high-strangeness cases. On what was described as an otherwise ordinary afternoon in May of 1973, 2 children, known as Faye and an unnamed boy, were playing near the river
Poor kid.
at Lake Common in Sandown, Isle of Wight. Their attention was drawn to a strange sound drifting across the area, described as a wailing noise similar to an ambulance siren. Following the sound, the children came upon something that did not fit into any known category of person, animal, or costume. Standing near a wooden footbridge was a humanoid figure estimated to be around 7 feet tall. He wore a green tunic, white trousers, and a pointed yellow hat. His face appeared to sit directly on his shoulders, no visible neck. His eyes were triangular markings rather than normal eyes. His nose was square and brown, and his lips were yellow. His limbs were described as rigid and flat, like wooden slats. The figure carried what the children described as a black knobbed microphone with a white flex attached. When he spoke into it, the wailing sound stopped. Initially, Sam used the microphone to communicate, though later he was able to speak without it, albeit unclearly with minimal lip movement. When asked his name, the being reportedly replied that his name was All Colors Sam. The interaction did not end there. Sam invited the children into his nearby dwelling, a small metallic self-made hut with 2 floors. Inside, the children spent approximately 30 minutes with him. During this time, Sam demonstrated behaviors that were, at best, deeply unsettling. He showed them a book that he carried. He spoke in a non-linear, fragmented manner. And most memorably, he demonstrated how he ate berries, placing them into his ear and then transferring them into his mouth through his eye. At no point did the children report feeling threatened. Instead, the experience was described as strange, confusing, and surreal rather than frightening. After the encounter, Sam was never seen again. The story entered the public record years later when Faye's brother, identified only as Mr. Y, reported the incident to the British UFO Research Association. Bufora documented the account in a 1978 report, preserving it as a case that resisted easy classification. Was Sam an extraterrestrial, a folkloric entity, a hallucination, a misinterpreted human? The report offered no definitive conclusion. Over time, the Sandown Clown became part of British high-strangeness folklore. The case has since inspired books, documentaries, artwork, jewelry, and even 3D printed figurines, an odd commercial afterlife for something that appeared once, baffled 2 children, and vanished without explanation. My take? I don't trust clowns under the best circumstances. I especially don't trust 7-foot clowns who live in metal huts, eat berries through their eyes, and introduce themselves like a psychedelic printer error. What makes the Sandown Clown fascinating isn't that it's obviously aliens, it's that it doesn't behave like anything. It's not a classic UFO encounter, it's not a ghost, it's not a cryptid, it's not even a convincing prank. It's nonsense with confidence, and that's the unsettling part. The details are too specific, too consistent, and too weird to feel invented, but also too strange to feel misidentified. If this were a costume, it was an elaborate one worn once in the middle of nowhere for no audience except 2 children. Also, the microphone siren thing, that's not how sound works. That's not how eating works either. Nothing about Sam operates on rules that we recognize. Whether this was imagination, an altered mental state, something non-human, or something we don't have language for, the Sandown Clown occupies a very uncomfortable space. The gap between explanation and dismissal, and frankly, that's where the best weird shit lives.
I have a new phobia.
The Sandown Clown?
Yeah.
So is the Sandown Clown more likely to be a psychological phenomenon, a prank, or something genuinely unexplained?
Genuinely unexplained.
I think it is too. I think it's weird as shit is what I think.
Very, very weird as shit. How did they not feel uncomfortable? How?
They're kids, man. Kids.
I don't care. Kids are scared of everything.
No. Not all kids are not.
No.
Nope. So why do so many high strangeness encounters involve entities that almost, but not quite, understand human behavior?
That's a good question, because they're trying to be like us, so we'll accept them.
Right?
Yeah.
So is Sandown Clown like a alien? Or is like an interdimensional type thing? Or what the?
I hope it's not a future thing, because I don't want to come across it.
Yeah, if you encountered All Colors Sam today, would you follow him into the hut or run immediately?
Run immediately. as fast as this broken knee could help me get.
I'm telling you straight up, if I see any 7-foot anything, I'm keeping my freaking distance, man, because, yeah, that's way bigger than me.
Yeah, I'm not entering anything's abode.
And when I encounter some weird shit like that, and they say, come back to my house with me,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Let me show you how I eat berries.
Through my ear, through my, into my ear, through my, I don't understand. I don't know what to say. All right, you ready for the next weird shit?
Yes, please.
The Black Hope curse when suburbia was built on the dead. In the early 1980s, residents of an upscale Texas subdivision near Houston began experiencing terrifying paranormal activity after discovering their homes were built atop an unmarked African-American cemetery known as Black Hope.
Oh, man.
Human remains were uncovered during routine landscaping, and multiple families reported escalating supernatural disturbances, emotional collapse, legal ruin, and even death. The case became one of the most infamous modern haunted neighborhood stories in American folklore. Just outside Houston sits what was once a pristine suburban development, manicured lawns, quiet streets, and newly built homes marketed as a dream for young families. In the early 1980s, Sam and Judith Haney moved into what they believed would be their forever home on the western edge of the neighborhood. That dream began to rot almost immediately. Shortly after moving in, an elderly man appeared at the Haney's door with an unsettling warning. He explained that he had noticed the couple digging a swimming pool and felt compelled to tell them something important. There were graves in their backyard.
Ugh.
Skeptical but uneasy, Sam Haney decided to investigate. Using a backhoe, he dug into the marked area. Almost immediately, he struck wood, pine boards. Digging by hand, he uncovered the unmistakable outline of a human skeleton. Authorities were called. The sheriff and county coroner conducted an official exhumation. Most of the remains had deteriorated into powder, but fragments were recovered. Nearby, a second coffin was discovered, intact, containing skeletal remains with 2 wedding rings still on the finger. The rings were handed to Judith Haney. It was sickening, she later said, to think that I had desecrated somebody's grave. The Haneys began searching for answers. Their investigation led them to a longtime local resident, Jasper Norton, who revealed the horrifying truth. The neighborhood had been built over an abandoned African-American cemetery called Black Hope. Many of those buried there were former slaves. Records suggested as many as 60 people were interred in unmarked paupers' graves, with the last burial occurring in 1939. The graves had been forgotten. The land was sold. The houses were built. Wanting to make things right, the Haneys reburied the remains in their backyard and prayed for peace. Peace did not come.
Yeah.
Judith reported electrical disturbances, a bedroom clock sparking with a blue glow despite being unplugged. She heard voices when she was alone. One morning, her red shoes vanished, only to be found neatly placed atop the grave sites outside. Sam noted the discovery coincided with what would have been Betty Thomas's birthday, the woman buried there. Other neighbors soon came forward. Ben and Jean Williams reported coffin-shaped sinkholes reportedly forming in their yard. Plants refused to grow. Cold spots appeared inside the house during Texas summers. Toilets flushed on their own. Shadows moved along the walls. Whispers echoed through empty rooms. Their granddaughter described hearing murmuring voices as water drained from the toilet, as though unseen people were speaking. Ben Williams eventually claimed to see 2 ghostly figures inside his home. When they approached his wife's bedroom, he charged them, passing through the apparitions and feeling an intense, sticky cold sensation throughout his body. The emotional toll was devastating. The Haneys sued the builder for failing to disclose the cemetery. A jury initially awarded them $142,000 for mental anguish, but the verdict was overturned. The Haneys were ordered to pay $50,000 in court costs. They filed for bankruptcy and lost everything. The Williams sought legal remedies as well, but without definitive proof of graves on their property, they were told there was nothing that could be done. That's when Jean Williams made a fateful decision. If you want a body, she said, I'll show you a body. And she began digging. Jean became ill. Her daughter Tina took over. Within an hour, Tina grew dizzy, collapsed, and suffered a massive heart attack. She died 2 days later.
Oh,
Jean believed that she had desecrated another grave and paid the price. The Williams fled the neighborhood. Eventually, they rebuilt their lives somewhere else. The disturbances stopped. Today, the neighborhood stands quiet. Current residents report nothing unusual. No explanations were ever offered. No accountability was taken. And no one has ever been able to fully explain what happened at Black Hope. My take? This story isn't scary because of ghosts. It's scary because of indifference. This wasn't a cursed castle or a haunted plantation. This was suburban America. Developers erased a cemetery, specifically an African-American cemetery, because it was inconvenient. Then they sold the land, poured concrete over the dead, and walked away. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the trauma here is real. People uncovered human remains in their yards. They were handed wedding rings from skeletons. They were told legally, none of it mattered.
yeah.
And when everything fell apart, emotionally, financially, spiritually, the system shrugged their shoulders. You don't need spirits to explain that kind of damage. But if you do believe in restless dead, Black Hope becomes something else entirely. Not a haunting, but a reckoning.
And no one got a pool.
Yeah. And so is the Black Hope case best explained by paranormal activity, psychological trauma, or moral injustice?
B and C.
So you don't think it's a haunting?
No, maybe it's all. I think it's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What I just told you is all I know about this, so take it for what it's worth. But it does seem a little bit, I don't know, questionable that none of these appearances started happening until they discovered that their house was built on a cemetery.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you wonder if they were like scaring themselves, not intentionally.
Right.
But it would freak me the hell out too to find out that I have dead people in my backyard.
Yeah.
And so, but then there's the whole other aspect of that is like they really tried to do the right thing and reintern them on their property and
Yeah.
respect
Exactly where they were.
respect
Yeah.
their graves and stuff. So I don't know, but the next question for me is a no-brainer. Should developers be legally required to investigate and disclose historical burial grounds, especially marginalized ones?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't care if the people buried there are black, white, Indian. Like, to me, that makes no difference. This wasn't like because there's people buried all over the place, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, most
That was specific set aside
that was a freaking cemetery.
spiritual.
It was
Yes.
not like on the wagon train Larry killed over, so we're gonna dig a hole and throw his ass in it.
Yeah.
This is like a cemetery.
Which I'd still
And-
respect it if we knew about it, but
Well, of course, but this is a cemetery where the last person was buried in 1930 freaking 9. That was not that long ago.
No,
My dad was alive then. I mean,
it was not that long ago.
we were keeping records and shit by the 30s,
Yeah.
Very, very good records. We're talking just a few years before World War II. I mean, this is very much of the modern industrialized era. And we couldn't keep track of where graves were.
They didn't care.
I mean, that's jacked up.
It's clear that they just didn't care because it was monetization.
Right. So if the neighborhood is quiet now, does that mean the dead are at rest or just ignored again?
Probably ignored again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to think. And
I don't know about the guy who told him, like, where does he live? How did he know? Why,
Well, shit, he was probably an old man. Like I said, it was not that long ago.
Yeah, true.
I mean, what did I say? When did I say that this took place? Early 1980s. In the early 1980s, somebody that was alive in 1939 would have been
in his 50s, yeah.
Well, yeah, they would have been in the prime of their life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, he probably grew up there. He probably knew the last person that was freaking buried in the place. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's a crazy one. I wouldn't want to live there. I know that.
No.
All right, you ready for the next one?
Yep.
Weird shit number 4. Pepsi's Cold War Navy when a soda company owned warships. In the late 1980s, PepsiCo struck one of the strangest trade deals in corporate history. Instead of cash, the Soviet Union paid for Pepsi syrup with a fleet of naval vessels, including submarines. For a brief moment, Pepsi technically controlled what was jokingly described as the world's 6th largest navy, making it the only soft drink company to ever become a naval power during the Cold War. By the late 1980s, Pepsi was wildly popular in the Soviet Union. The problem wasn't demand, it was money. The Soviet ruble was essentially worthless outside of the USSR. It couldn't be freely exchanged, converted, or used to pay Western corporations. Most companies refused to do business under those conditions. Pepsi did not. At the center of the story is Donald Kendall, Pepsi's CEO, a man who was not your typical corporate executive. Kendall had been a U.S. Navy pilot during World War II. He earned a Distinguished Flying Cross and started at Pepsi in 1947, bottling soda and hauling crates by truck. By 1963, he had risen to CEO and built rare personal access to global political leaders, including Soviet leadership. Kendall famously convinced Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev to try Pepsi at the 1959 American National Exhibition in Moscow, giving Pepsi a foothold behind the Iron Curtain long before most Western brands were allowed in. Fast forward to the late 1980s. The Soviet Union placed a massive order for Pepsi syrup, but once again had no usable currency to pay for it. Kendall didn't want to lose the deal, so he asked a simple question: what can you pay with? The answer was unexpected but very Soviet: warships. Through a complex trade arrangement, Pepsi agreed to accept decommissioned Soviet naval vessels as partial payment. The deal reportedly included 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer. These ships were transferred to Pepsi through intermediaries and were intended to be sold for scrap, not deployed in combat. But ownership still mattered. For a brief window of time, Pepsi technically controlled a fleet larger than many national natives. When White House officials learned of the deal, Kendall reportedly joked, "We're disarming the Soviet Union faster than you are." The timing couldn't have been stranger. The Cold War was thawing, Soviet economy was collapsing, and a soda company had become, on paper, a naval power. In 1991, as the Soviet Union dissolved and global trade regulations shifted, Pepsi sold off the ships and abandoned the arrangement. The company returned to normal commercial operations, but the story endured. No other corporation has ever held submarines as payment for soda. My take? This is the most American thing that has ever happened.
Yep.
Not because it's patriotic, but because it's capitalism at its absolute weirdest. When faced with a broken currency, Pepsi didn't say no. They said, "Cool, what else you got?" And the Soviets responded with submarines. I also love that this wasn't some tech startup nonsense. It was handled by a World War II Navy pilot who looked at a geopolitical crisis and said, "Fine, I'll take a destroyer." Let's be clear, Pepsi never fired a torpedo, but for one brief, beautiful moment, a soda company could have theoretically blockaded a coastline. And that's the real lesson of the Cold War. Sometimes the arms race ends not with missiles, but with a soda. So is this the strangest corporate payment arrangement in history, or just the most honest?
Both.
I never
Strange. I
never heard this shit. Never heard this shit at all. But is that crazy or is that freaking crazy?
Yeah.
And could you imagine a company now like pulling up friggin' submarines to the coast, to the California coastline, and you're like, what the hell's going on here?
I'd like to pay for.
Yeah. That had to be a lot of freaking Pepsi syrup. I gotta say, like, that's a lot. 17 submarines? Plus.
Plus. I don't know.
So what modern company do you think would handle international trade this boldly today?
Tesla.
That's what I was going to say. Elon Musk. I could see him pulling some shit like this. Abso-freaking-lutely I could. Yep. So if Pepsi owns submarines, what brand do you not want owning aircraft carriers?
Oh, wow. Surge. Jolt.
Yeah.
I don't want any of that. No.
None of that.
None of that.
All right. You ready for weird shit number 5?
Sure thing.
All right. So this one, I don't know if you've listened to it or not. This I covered on my Christmas special.
No, but I've
You've heard the story? Yeah, I covered this one on my Christmas special, and it's just weird. We're gonna have to do a main episode on it as well because I just briefly covered it.
Very weird.
It's weird. And that is the Sodder children disappearance. 5 kids vanish in a fire with no bodies.
Yep.
On Christmas Eve, November 24th, 1945, the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia burned to the ground. George and Jenny Sodder and 4 of their children escaped. 5 children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jeannie, and Betty, were presumed dead, but investigators found no bodies and no clear remains, and the family spent decades convinced the children were kidnapped amid suspicious warnings, missing evidence, and later sightings claims, including a mysterious photograph mailed to the family years later. The Sodder case begins like a tragedy and then refuses to behave like one. George Sodder, born Giorgio Sodu in Italy, had built a stable life in West Virginia as a successful trucking businessman. He was also outspoken, especially about politics. According to the family, his vocal criticism of Mussolini had created friction in parts of the local Italian immigrant community. In the months leading up to Christmas 1945, the family reported a series of unnerving incidents. A life insurance salesman allegedly warned George his house would go up in smoke and his children would be destroyed. Another visitor made comments about the home's wiring, and family members noticed strangers watching the children. Then came Christmas Eve. The household was full. George, Ginny, and 9 children. One older son was away in the military. The younger kids begged to stay up late, excited about gifts. Ginny eventually went to bed. At around 12:30 a.m., a strange wrong number call woke her up. She later remembered a weird laugh in the background. Around 1 a.m., she heard a loud thump on the roof, followed by a rolling sound. Not long after, she smelled smoke and discovered a fire near the office area, close to the telephone line and fuse box. George and Ginny woke the house. 4 children escaped with them, but 5 children, believed to be sleeping upstairs, did not respond to calls, and the stairway was already engulfed. George tried everything, climbing the exterior, breaking a window, searching for the ladder normally kept against the house, attempting to start his trucks to reach the attic window. Yet the ladder was missing and the trucks reportedly wouldn't start. They watched the house collapse. What happened next is where the case turns into a long-term American mystery. The fire department response was delayed until later that morning, and the search for remains was, by many accounts, limited. The fire chief concluded the 5 children were dead and suggested the blaze was intense enough to consume them entirely. But the Sodders could not reconcile that with what they saw afterwards. Household items were still recognizable in the ash. The family later heard from a crematorium contact that even intense heat over time tends to leave bone remnants. Ginny reported burned animal bones in small tests and found they didn't simply disappear. Then the physical oddities stacked up. The missing ladder was found down an embankment some distance from the house, suggesting it may have been moved. A phone repairman later told the family the phone line had been cut, not burned through, implying deliberate sabotage. Witnesses later claimed to have seen balls of fire thrown at the home the night of the blaze. A suspicious, small rubbery object was found later in the brush, which the family believed could have been an incendiary device. The official conclusion remained accidental fire, faulty wiring, but the family never accepted it. In the years that followed, they pursued the case relentlessly, hiring private investigators, pressuring authorities, and placing a billboard with the children's photos along the road offering a reward for information. They collected sighting claims. A woman who said she saw children matching their description with Italian-speaking adults. A claim that the children were seen in a passing car during the fire. Another claim they were served breakfast the next morning. Then came the most famous later clue. In 1967, Jenny received a letter with no return address postmarked from Kentucky, containing a photo of a young man resembling Louis Sauter. The back contained cryptic writing, quote, Louis Sauter, I love brother Frankie, end quote, and a string of characters and numbers. The family hired an investigator to follow up, who never returned with results and reportedly vanished from contact, leaving the family with more dread than closure. George died in 1969. Jenny wore black for the rest of her life and maintained a memorial garden over the fire site. The billboard stayed up until after her death in 1989. The family continued to publicize the case well into the 21st century. No definitive answer has ever emerged that satisfies the central problem. 5 children were declared dead in a fire, and yet the evidence of their death was never convincingly produced. My take? This story messes with you because it isn't one big impossible thing. It's 10 smaller things that all point in the same direction. Something was off. If the children died in that fire, fine, tragic, plausible, awful. But then explain the missing ladder, explain the cut phone lines, explain why multiple help options failed in a row like dominoes, explain why a fire hot enough to erase 5 bodies still left behind recognizable household material, explain why the family kept getting credible enough leads to keep them chasing for decades. And if the children didn't die in the fire, then what are we looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Kidnapping staged to look like a fire? Retaliation tied to Georgia's politics? Organized crime? A local grudge with a very specific target? A cover-up after a botched response? The most brutal part is that the Sauters never got the one thing grief demands, and that is certainty. They were trapped in permanent maybe, because in true crime, closure usually comes from a body, a confession, or a conviction. Here, you've got none of the above, just ashes, rumors, and a family that refused to stop asking questions everyone else wanted to bury. Where are the kids?
And why those specific kids? And why the kids haven't said anything in all these years?
So what detail bothers you the most? The missing ladder, the cut phone lines, the lack of remains?
Lack of remains.
Me too, 100%. I do not buy that for a second. No way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've researched way too many true crime cases where somebody tries to cremate a body.
And it doesn't work.
I mean, it's been proven time and time again.
To get too hot for that.
You cannot burn household combustibles hot enough to cremate remains. It just cannot happen. Those kids were not in that house. I'm convinced of it.
No. But I still want to know why those particular kids were chosen and not the other 4.
Well, I have a hard time. Maybe it was just because they couldn't get to the other 4. Maybe those ones were convenient. But the issue that I have is he didn't like Mussolini. Okay, it's 1945. We're at war with Italy. None of us like Mussolini. I mean, his opinion would not be like, it would not be an odd one when we have American servicemen over there dying, fighting against Mussolini's armies.
Right.
So if he would have loved Mussolini and been very outspoken in support of him, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
But for somebody that supported Mussolini and wanted to kill somebody that didn't, you're talking about the whole freaking country for the most part.
So why this guy?
And in the 1940s, during World War II, this country was very collectively on the same page on who was the enemy, who was the axis of evil. I'm not saying that there wasn't Nazis in the United States and Nazi sympathizers, and that there wasn't people that supported the Empire of Japan and that didn't support Mussolini in Italy, but it was tiny fragments.
Yeah.
I mean, this country went so far as to lock up perfectly innocent people just because they were from Japan or from Germany.
Yeah.
Not Nazis. We're talking about locking up people whose children were fighting for us in the war, and we still locked them into internment camps.
Yeah.
So pointing out somebody that didn't support Mussolini is like, okay, and that one doesn't, and that one doesn't, and that one, like, it's, so for me, that one is a little tough to swallow. Even if he was from Italy, there was a lot of Italians that didn't support Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
Just like there was a lot of Russians that didn't support Stalin, just like there was a lot of Cubans that didn't support Castro. I mean, the list goes on and on. Most of China didn't support Mao Zedong. So I don't know. That's a tough, I don't find that as a viable motive.
No, something else.
It was something else. But kidnapping 5 children, we're not talking about babies.
Yeah.
We're not talking about babies. 5 children is quite the
huge feat.
I mean, that's quite an undertaking in a house with the parents there.
Yeah. 4 other kids.
Right.
That baffles me.
And I don't believe for an instant that the Sodders were involved. You do not spend 50 years with a billboard up and trying to find your children. If you're somehow guilty, you want that story to go away as fast as possible. They did everything they possibly could to keep it alive. They are not responsible for this. So it is a freaking weird one. So if you assume that children were taken, what scenario feels most plausible? Local retaliation, organized crime, or something else?
Retaliation. I think he did something else.
Yeah, it wasn't organized crime. Because what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, the mafia, for all the bad shit they do, killing children is not high on the list.
No.
There's like none of that shit happens. But let's just say it was a mafia figure. They're not going to steal them. They want to hang those bodies out where everybody can see them and be like, hey, you mess with me, this is what you get.
Exactly.
It's the horse's head in the bed type thing. I've seen The Godfather. I know how the mafia works. So, I mean, but all jokes aside, that's really how they operate. You're either swimming with the fishes where you're disappeared, you're gone, whatever, or you're out there where people can see it and they leave. But if it's children, it's definitely to send a message to the parents, in which case they're going to find the bodies. It was not organized crime.
Yeah.
I already explained my feelings on the whole Mussolini angle. I don't buy that for a freaking second. So I think it was something else. I don't know what.
He wronged somebody somewhere and no one is talking about it.
But even still, that's so remarkably rare.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of any, actually. It's not like I have an encyclopedia in my brain of every crime case ever, but, most of the time, if children are taken and it's not for sexual purposes, it's for ransom purposes.
Yeah.
Or you have some whacked out woman that wants a baby and she steals one, but that was not this.
That's happening all too often lately.
And so you're either left with, in my mind, like the sexual component, which doesn't fit because boys and girls of multiple ages were taken, doesn't fit there at all. Or the ransom theory, which doesn't fit because there was never a ransom. I can't think of another kidnapping case of children that doesn't fit in there. And I can't think really of kidnapping case in general that doesn't fit in there, unless it's like a bank president taken to get into the bank or some shit like that. But just strictly kidnapping, it's either
very weird.
It's so weird. I don't know. It feels like some kind of retaliation, but to what end?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you take the kids and you're like, you stop doing this shit or the kids are dead. You stop doing this shit and you'll get your kids back. But
there was nothing else.
Right. So, and if the person that you're retaliating against doesn't understand that they're being retaliated against, what point does it serve?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't have an answer to this question.
Neither.
That's why I said we're going to have to dig into it for like a main show episode because I got to know more.
Yep.
And it's going to take a lot of research because you're talking freaking old records.
Yeah.
But I definitely see that in our future because this one kind of has its hooks in me, obviously.
I like this
I've
one.
covered it like twice in less than a month. So if you assume the children died in the fire, what explains the continued credible leads and the later photograph?
Mm-hmm.
And that's another weird one.
Yeah.
They carry this shit on for years.
And I feel like I've heard that there was a letter later too in other things. Like there was another form of communication later.
And you might be right. I don't know if the letter is what is referred to as the writing on the back of the photograph or if there was an additional letter as well. I haven't seen anything about the letter, but maybe.
I could be wrong because we know I don't remember these things as well and I could be remembering from something else, but I feel like a missing sibling reached out to a not missing sibling in a letter.
Maybe.
I feel like, I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's a memory I'm having.
I don't know. It's
So,
weird
I
as
don't know.
shit, you know? I mean, it's just the whole story's weird and no theories fit, you know? It's
Yeah.
like the children ran away from an abusive household. Okay, well, abusers don't typically spend 50 years
Yeah.
desperately seeking their missing children.
Yeah.
That's really not how it works usually.
And why only some of them? Again,
Right. And why didn't the other four come forward later?
not get abused? Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
In a 1945 house with 9 children, I mean, they weren't described as like uber wealthy. I've got to imagine it was a pretty small house. Kids were sharing bedrooms. It was a typical 1945 big
Maybe
family home.
Beds.
They very well might have been sharing beds. So and it just, nothing fits. That's what this story is so freaking bizarre.
It is very.
I do not believe that they were killed in the fire. That I could
No.
say unequivocally.
I don't think so either.
What happened and why? I got nothing. But then there was the other story I covered in the Christmas special too, and that was another freaking really crazy one. I mean, we know who did that. The father took his children into town and then got them all dressed up, bought them new clothes, which was very strange because it was like 1912 and they were dirt poor farmers in North Carolina. Took them all into town, got them all new clothes, had family photos taken, took them all home, got his shotgun, killed everybody,
Oof.
and then went out in the woods and walked around a tree until he literally worn a path around the tree. And then when people showed up, he shot himself. So we don't know. But yeah, you have to listen to that episode. It was
Yeah.
kind of a fun
I
one
haven't gotten to it yet, but
because all those happened on Christmas. And that's why this one was in there. It happened on Christmas Eve. That's
Yeah.
why that one was in there. It happened on Christmas. That was my sadistic, weird ass, true crime minded Christmas special because that's what we do here.
that's what we do. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is all that I have for us tonight. That is the black, or it's not the black screen.
Be the black screen.
It would be the black screen, but I decided I needed reminders of everything we need our listeners to do. So if you like what we do and how we do it, please give us a review, leave us a thumbs up, a like, hit the bell, all the freaking things that I don't really understand how they work or why they work, but I know that they do work.
And we need them.
And we need them. And if you're interested in getting involved, you can always check out our Adopt a Victim program on Dark Dialogue Collective. All the information for that can be found at darkdialogue.com. And you can support the show on Patreon, on Coffee, on Substack. You can take advantage of the members only benefits that can be found on those sites. And you also can check out all of the rest of our entire catalog of shows. Dark Dialogue Main Show, we have Dark Dialogue Rocky Mountain Reckoning, Dark Dialogue Distilled, Dark Dialogue Unraveled Truths, Dark Dialogue Gals and Gunfights, because I'm insane and I like to torture myself and write and edit and do nothing else ever. So that's all for you people. So it's all I ask for in return is like a thumbs up, a like, a review. That's it. That's easy.
It's free.
And I keep producing all this nonsense and you get to keep listening and being like, wow, this guy is out of his mind. So with that, do you have anything else to add?
I actually do.
Hit me with it.
It's amazing, right?
Right.
So I don't know exactly when this is going up, but we have already teased a little bit that we're collaborating with JJ Hawk Band.
Yes.
And there is a contest brewing.
That's right.
Yes. So you get entries when you interact with these things, as John just asked you to interact with: likes, follows, shares, whatnots, subscribing.
Is there rules?
I'm not 100% on rules, other than the more you interact with us and the more you interact with the JJ Hawk Band on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, are the more entries you get to all of these. And there's a lot of different tiers of prizes.
Oh, there's all kinds of merchandise from the JJ Hawk Band.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that collaboration is super exciting. They're freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Check out their music all over the place. It's unique, and it kind of, I don't know. I mean, the song I picked for Karen Pinnell was almost had a country vibe to it. Mm-hmm. And then there's songs that definitely have a rock vibe, and they're so unique and just
a lot of molds.
They really do. Yeah, it's really cool. It's exciting as hell for me.
Yep.
And we'll see. We'll get those rules, and then we can announce them on a later show. Do you know, like, the timeline? When is this going to happen? And
I feel like I heard Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. Yeah. Okay.
We're headed to Valentine's Day, and I did hear that one of the prizes does include a $100 Visa gift card.
Oh yeah.
Free things like, share, and subscribe.
T-shirts and
Come on, man.
mugs and guitar picks and
There's
all kinds of stuff.
Clock from the band.
Signed clock, yeah, blankets, all kinds of cool shit. So
Our dialogue will have some merchandise in it.
Yep. So, yeah, so let's see if we can lock down those details as soon as we can. So we'll have it on our next production, so we can get that information out to our listeners and everything, and they can be sure to get in there. But
I just wanted to plant a little bug in their ears right now.
Absolutely, and
Interact with things.
The interactions right now will count.
Yes.
You don't have to wait until we announced all the rules and everything. Like, you interact with us, you interact with the JJ Hawk Band, those interactions are going to count as entries into all of this. So, yeah, so thank you for that.
I finally had something. I can't believe it.
Right on. Well, I don't have anything else, so if you don't...
Other than stay safe, everybody.
Yep, this has been John.
And Angela.
Have a great night.